Robin Hood Radio presents Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens. Michele is a longtime journalist and herself is a published playwright of several theatrical works. She's a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, Daily Beast, and the Atlantic websites.
Well, here we go again. No Stage Left, episode 24. It was a pretty slow week in terms of theater streaming. The two most newsworthy things I watched, I'm afraid to say, cannot be watched again, at least not in the foreseeable future. Both presentations, coincidentally, came from Britain. The first was the Old Vic's latest live on-camera production, they call them. Yes, Three Kings, starring Andrew Scott of Fleabag fame, finally happened after several postponements. This was a one-man piece written by Stephen Beresford, barely more than an hour long, about a son looking back over life with an abusive father. "You can't love what disappoints you," says that father. "He told me I was only born so my sister would not be bored," says his son. Ugh. Scott, who is anything but boring, strolls on the actual Old Vic stage before an empty theater and enacts, if I got this right, his character as a child, his father, himself as an adult, someone he meets in a bar, an occasional female, and his brother. It is a first-rate performance. The Old Vic in London is fighting for its survival, so it has used these star-driven shows, playing only to limited viewers at a time for some unknown reason, as a way to raise money. For me, Three Kings was worth the wait. At the same time, and also live only, was Theatre of War's British-performed version of Oedipus the King. As usual for that company, this was comprised of a number of scenes from the Sophocles tragedy, followed by a lengthy conversation with healthcare providers. The resonance is pretty amazing. "Look and you will see a savage pestilence has ravaged the land. Use your unremarkable strength and put us back on the path to health." Those are some of the lines. You wonder why healthcare providers relate. The Oedipus in the U.S. version was played by Oscar Isaac. This time around, he was brought vividly to life by Damian Lewis, quite different from his role on Showtime's Billions. Though on second thought, I don't know, this cold-hearted leader out for himself may not be all that different. With a COVID-inspired beard and shaggy hair, Damian Lewis was great fun to watch. Unfortunately, neither of those works can be viewed on YouTube, but I will let you know if that changes. The most interesting news of the week is that theater companies are beginning to announce their coming seasons, all virtual for starters, with hopes that they can swiftly transition to stage when things open up. Primary Stages here in New York announced its 2021 landscape, as did the famed Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. That one sounds particularly intriguing. Begins in November with a play about two poets video chatting after years apart. And in January, the great actress Carrie Coons will star in Red Folder by Rajiv Joseph. The subject is vengeance in an elementary school. While there is little good news during this time, there are occasional silver linings. For example, being able to stream shows by places like the Steppenwolf, which were previously only viewable to those who get to Chicago and grab tickets. I presume these new and altered schedules will be coming now virtually every week from all over the country. Some are thinking way outside the box. The New York Theater Workshop, for example, is using its money and time initially to commission works from key artists and allow outsiders to watch the process. Sounds like an interesting idea. As for what's to be offered this upcoming week, well, the most highly publicized is Miscast, that's M-I-S-C-A-S-T, from the MCC. A long list of Broadway names, including Leslie Odom, Rob McClure, Joshua Henry, Philippa Sue, and Adrienne Warren, who's likely going to win the Tony for Tina, will perform virtually. That gala of sorts happens next Sunday, the 13th. Check out past performances, by the way, of Miscast on YouTube. They're very humorous. For example, two men, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Raul Esparza, doing the female duet from West Side Story. That's downright hilarious. The same night, incidentally, that being next Sunday, the Berkshire Theater Group is offering Hershey Felder's latest one-man bio-musical called George Gershwin Alone. It comes from Florence, Italy, where Felder has a home. I have been privileged to visit that home, I might say, and I'm looking forward to how this is done. And speaking of galas, by the way, the Ashland, Oregon Shakespeare Festival, OSF to its devoted fans, is doing one on Saturday at 8. That organization is one of the best and deserves support. And here, too, it's a chance for those who likely will never make it to Ashland to at least see what it's made of. On Wednesday, the Signature Theater streams In the Rehearsal Zoom, an inside look, I assume, at how all these works are being done. On the female front, arguably the most unique thing going on is called Theater for One, 8 new mini plays, one every Thursday, featuring one performer, and if I understand correctly, one audience member. I am on a waiting list, so stay tuned. And finally, for many, most happily, the Apple family returns via the Public Theater for a final Zoom reunion on Thursday night. But this one remains available after on YouTube. And thousands have tuned in to hang out with those juicy characters created by Richard Nelson. Now, we talked a bit last week about national tours. Virtually every Broadway production sets up one for the future. Well, now most, of course, have been canceled or postponed. These productions are not uncomplicated in normal times. Cast and crews may come into a town, unload, rehearse, set up in a new theater space within about 2 days. Then they do a few days or weeks and then move on to the next town. Well, now with COVID, every city and state has its own protocols for safety, so it's doubly confusing. And the cast and crew has to worry about distancing, where they stay, etc., etc. As one touring operator said, shows that were scheduled for 2020 have already been recalendared, that was her word, 3 to 6 times. Some are looking at outdoor venues or tents, but odds are, Jill, that Broadway show ain't coming to your town soon.
All right. I was, obviously thinking more in terms, but again, no one called me, not of the classic tour.
Yeah.
Where you do go from town to town, because even though it's very interesting to me, just practically speaking, you could tell at the end of July, certain people who had been in place started moving around, going to different places. They started going, even the most careful started going places in a way that they hadn't been. But I was thinking more about...
you were thinking of original pop-ups kind of thing, weren't you? Or?
Well, more like, for example, we're going to pull the Theater Under the Stars in Houston.
Yeah.
But instead of going for a week, just doing something longer in venues that... are similar to that, and I don't know what the profitability is. I don't know. They would have to be major. They would have to be major cities, obviously. But that's more what I was wondering if anyone had. I just riffing on what's been done with various sports. Which nobody really thinks about. But
well, that's can you bubble? Yeah, I mean, in a sense, even if you took a touring company, you would have to set up a bubble of sorts, like they're doing for the NBA or whatever.
We're better than Disney, for example. But that's just me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think I think once it gets in, nothing's going to happen this year. Let's face it. Once it starts 2021, I think more. I mean, listen, even in your area, because of you have the ability to do outdoor tenting and stuff like that, people are putting up shows. Godspell was, I guess, the first one in the whole country to go live, sort of. But I don't know. Again, the big question is who's going to show up? Most people I talk to say they're not going into a movie theater or a live theater for a long time. They just can't imagine sitting there. I don't know. But yeah, look, I've been watching the U.S. Open on TV and the NBA playoffs, and they've got all the fake sound going in the background. For TV viewers, it kind of looks like it's a real thing. God knows what it's like to be playing in front of an empty arena. But yeah, I think, this is just such a strange year, a strange time. But I think, people will, theater people are nothing if not creative and they think outside the box. I mean, I had done a very long article, I don't know, 10 months ago, I guess, about traveling shows, about national tours. It was all geared to the band's visit, which was heading all the way across country, was going to end up in L.A. That's who I was writing it for, was for L.A. You know, that band is not going to visit anywhere soon.
That is, did they just cancel the whole thing?
I don't, yeah, they postponed it. I think none of them are saying they are canceled.
Okay.
They're saying they're postponed. But, it's that, just think of being that theater, then that has to rejigger everything they had coming in, putting that off a year. It's beyond.
It's definitely worse than a ground stop. There's no question about it. I've just, as I say, I have noted with interest, and there has been pretty good success here with the Sharon Playhouse acting as a drive-in, and the performances have been sold out. Now, it's limited; it can only hold X number of vehicles. But
You mean for a drive-in movie?
For performances that are treated as.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. There are bigger places, obviously, and there are people with cars, and there are also people out there that are out and about a little more than we are. So I'm just
That's
curious.
Right. But now, Europe is having a spike again. I don't know. It's bizarre. I mean, even watching that old Vic thing is so strange. You're looking at an empty theater where the voice is saying 5 minutes, take your seats, and all. They're trying every way possible. And then one man walks on stage for an hour and does his thing. I don't know. I try to be optimistic and think, yeah, 2021 we will have theater again, but in the meantime we'll find ways of. And there are companies, there are people who are really financially, they're at the brink of whether they could ever come back. And that's really, really sad.
Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens, produced in the studios of Robin Hood Radio, robinhoodradio.com.